Hi guys, hope you're well. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about worrying and being a warrior. I don't mean warrior as in warrior like a Viking. I mean just being a bit of a, anxious worrywart, which I am very much so. This idea for a video came to me because today is the day we vote in the EU referendum. So I think it's caused a lot of people to kind of think about the future and then worry about how the result may affect our future. But it just led me to thinking about all the worries that we have in this century and the pressures that we're all under, really. I used to think that, you're just innately either a warrior or someone that's chilled out, because I remember at school there are some people that just didn't seem to care that much what anyone thought, or how well they did in their exams, or about anything really. And then there's people like me who I worried that my body wasn't developing right. I was worried that I wasn't cool enough. I wasn't cool enough. I was worried that I wasn't going to get the right grades. I worried that I'd never get a boyfriend. All these sorts of things. And I don't know, at the time I didn't kind of question why I was that sort of person, but as an adult I kind of questioned why I seem to have always been that sort of person. I think when we grew up, for many of us, there was this expectation about how life would go. You'd finish college or uni, then you get the job that you wanted to get, and then maybe a few years later, if you wanted, you get married hopefully, and then have kids. I think these days, it's a lot harder to get those things in that right order, in the timescale you imagined. And I think that leaves a lot of us feeling unsettled. Like, I know for me, for instance, in my head, I would have, if I'd gone to the plan that I had when I was younger, I would have been married 6 years ago and maybe started having kids 4 years ago. That was my thing. So as you can see, I'm very behind. And I think, obviously, I'm not the only one. It's pretty tough to make money in this day and age. It's tough to get on the housing ladder. It's tough to make relationships work because of all the pressures. And I think a lot of us feeling kind of unstable, a little bit unsettled, and we feel like time's running out, even though it's not, because we're living longer. So it's okay to wait a bit longer to do things and to get to things at a different time. But I think we do have, those are the things that are popping into our head basically. And then obviously with social media, we're seeing an edited view of other people's lives, and their lives sometimes look a lot more exciting, perhaps a lot more financially gifted, perhaps I don't know, their skin looks better, I don't know, whatever it is. And I think then we end up obviously looking at our own lives, our own skin, our own bodies, our own bank balance and stuff, and that makes us worry that we're not where we should be. But it's like I've said in so many videos, it's about not looking elsewhere, it's about concentrating on your own path and your own journey, and kind of realising that it's good to have your own unique path, and that's the way it should be. I think a lot of us actually worry about the what ifs, the maybes, the perhaps, those kind of possible outcomes, those possible things that could happen, that a large chunk of the time never happen or won't happen, or perhaps will happen, but it's kind of out of our control. But I think that is a big part of it, is that we like to have control. It gives us comfort, makes us feel safe, and the things that are out of our control that might happen, that causes us a lot of worry. But essentially it is pointless worry, because like I said, it's out of our control and we can't do anything about it. So it actually makes more sense to concentrate on the things that we can have control over, things that we can have an influence on. So if you find yourselves worrying, I don't know, about your career or where your work's going, make a decision to either change your career path or perhaps just put a lot of focus into your work. I know at the moment I'm obviously constantly feeling sad about lack of money and lack of progress in my career, but instead of just dwelling on worrying about it, I'm working my doughy butt off to try and sort it out. So at least I can't look at myself as the reason it's not worked out. If I know I've tried my best, at least I'm not worrying that I've failed myself. So I guess that's the same if, I don't know, if something that worries you is perhaps you're not happy with how you look, then I guess, you know, you try and get yourself to the gym, or I don't know. It's like I said in the happiness video, if you worry about maybe something you've said or something you didn't do or something you did do that kind of you still think about now, then, you know, if you can sort that out or address that in some way, then do that. I think a large amount of our worry comes from the fact that we let these little seeds of worry grow into big worry trees inside us because we don't nip them in the bud. Well, that was a pun without intending it. We don't nip them in the bud before they grow to tree level by just, you know, sharing the worry with someone else. Because I think more often than not, if you talk about the worry you have with a friend or a therapist or colleague or whoever, sometimes I've done it with strangers actually, and they make you realise how silly that worry is, or that you're being irrational, or perhaps the worry stems from something ridiculous, and you just need them to kind of break that cycle, break that growth in that worry to kind of help you out. A lot of us create worries that don't need to be there as well, or at least a good example of this actually is I, for one, did this a few years ago. I had something I was seriously worried about health-wise, and I put off going to have the tests and stuff done because I'd convinced myself that I had something terminal, had something that, you know, was really bad. Put it off, and just became such a stressed out shell of a human actually. Eventually I woke up one day and said, I'm just going to sort this out, and sorted it out, and I got a result that surprised me, but it was a result that, you know, I prayed for, and everything was actually all right. And I think a lot of us are guilty of putting off things that, you know, we should just do and get it done because it's always better to know. Sometimes, yeah, the outcome might not always be positive, it might not always be what you prayed for or wanted, but at least you know, and you can then adapt your life to whatever that result was. You can live in the most effective, positive way possible in that particular situation. Just talking about, you know, why I think I am generally someone that worries a lot. You know, I have sleepless nights worrying. I find myself feeling really paranoid about everything all the time. I think when I was young, I had an awareness that my mum was also a worrier too. She always seemed slightly stressed. She had a lot on her plate at the time. And I think, you know, you take on some of those behaviours, whether you realise it or not. You either perhaps imitate them, or they kind of infiltrate via osmosis, and you see how the people around you react to certain events or react to certain situations, and you almost learn that that's how you should respond to them, and that's how you should be feeling when they happen, even if that's not necessarily your natural inclination. So perhaps that has something to do with it. But I also wonder whether my parents were fairly strict, not like in an unfair way, but in comparison to a lot of my classmates. So maybe the restrictions that were put on me, perhaps to go to certain things, to do certain things, meant that I didn't put myself, or I wasn't allowed to be put in situations that would make me learn from experience. You know that they always say that you shouldn't mollycoddle a child because they need to learn from their mistakes. So maybe because I was prevented from so many situations or doing certain things, that made me think that those situations were things to worry about, things to be fearful of, things to be scared of. And perhaps I carried that on as I grew up into an adult. So I found things that were actually normal and kind of dangerous to a healthy level. You know, situations that had an element of risk but were fine, perhaps I found those intimidating or stressful to deal with because as a youngster I hadn't been allowed to experience them for myself and deal with whatever happened in them myself. So I wonder if that has something to do with it too. But it's hard. I do feel like some of it is innate, some of it's natural, and I was always going to have a tendency to worry that perhaps it's something that was passed on in the genes, because I seem to have inherited a lot of physical traits from my mum, like the knobbly knees. We've even both got a mole in our belly button, both got a bit of a bump on our nose, so you never know, but that was just a thought really. I wanted to read you something from The Power of Now, which is something I'm reading at the moment, which kind of goes into it, but there's loads and loads of pages on it. So I just want to give you a little glimpse, and hopefully in a future video, once I kind of am fully in on this book and understand it a bit more, I can find some more relative bits. So when someone goes to the doctor and says, "I hear a voice in my head," he or she will most likely be sent to a psychiatrist. The fact is that, in a very similar way, virtually everyone hears a voice or several voices in their head all the time. The involuntary thought process that you don't realise you have the power to stop. Continuous monologues or dialogues. You have probably come across mad people in the street incessantly talking or muttering to themselves. Well, that's not much different from what you and all other normal people do, except you don't do it out loud. The voice comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes, and so on. The voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself in at the time. It may be reviving the recent or distant past, or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. I know I do that a lot, just kind of think about possible scenarios that might happen. Here it often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry. Sometimes this soundtrack is accompanied by visual images or mental movies. I'm going to miss out the next bit, but when you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. Do not judge or condemn what you hear, for doing so would mean the same voice has come in again through the back door. You'll soon realise there is the voice, and here I am listening to it, watching it. This I am realisation, the sense of your own present, is not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. So I think in essence it's saying this is normal to have these conversations, these dialogues in your head, but you've almost got to separate yourself from them and almost look down on them as another being, going, I'm aware of them, I can hear this conversation going on, and kind of take the useful ones and discard the ones that really aren't useful and nonsensical. So the single most vital step on your journey towards enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this book, and it's, for some of you it might sound a bit hippie, but it does all make sense if you take away the complicated words and stuff, and it really does kind of clear things up for you and make you think about what you're doing every day when you listen to these voices whirring around your head. The thoughts that tend to manifest in my brain most of the time are I worry about death and losing loved ones a lot, I guess because it's something I've experienced a few times in my life in quite traumatic ways. I worry about aging, and the fact I don't really worry about aging, it's more about not achieving or not being where I want to be at the age I am, and just feeling like time is just slipping away way too fast, and that people will judge me negatively for how behind I am, so that worries me. I really worry that everyone hates me, that's a common one for me, which is silly because I don't think I'm a terrible person, and hopefully I always try and be nice to people, so I hope they wouldn't, but it's definitely one that really comes into my head a lot. Money, obviously, but I worry a lot about other people as well. I think sometimes if you're someone that people tend to go to for advice or for comfort a lot, which me and my mum seem to be that sort of person within our groups, I think we naturally take on their worries as well. I guess that's natural. If you love your friends or your family or people you care about them, and therefore you do worry about them if they're going through something, so that's natural. But I think if you have an inclination to be extremely empathetic, then you take on a lot of the stress of other people's worries. While it's super nice that people do come to you and seek comfort in you and stuff, if you are someone of that inclination, I think it can take its toll, because you're not only worrying about your own worries, you're worrying about those people as well as, you know, your family and friends and stuff. What I found hard actually about YouTube is I've had quite a few subscribers and people message me who have been in very dire situations. Some of them have been suicidal, been extremely depressed, or at the end of their tether, and I find myself worrying about them. And people tell me, oh, don't worry, it's nothing to do with you, it's not your responsibility. But if you're that sort of person, you can't just switch it off. So that's a difficulty. Basically, I wanted to make this video because I really feel like our generation has got it highly pressured, and I think we're all really stressed and we do find ourselves worrying a lot. Sometimes the worries seem valid, but quite a lot of the time we're worrying about things we shouldn't worry about, and it's just making things a lot worse for ourselves. So I wanted to kind of strike a conversation between us in the comments section below. I want you to talk about what kind of makes you worry the most, what you tend to worry about the most, because when I posted an Instagram about it, it seemed like most people were worrying about things that they'd said in conversations that they perhaps didn't word right or came off wrong, or perhaps they were worried were misinterpreted. Is that a word? Or misconstrued or whatever. So yeah, let me know below what tends to worry you, and more importantly, how you deal with it, or how you think would be a good or effective way for us to deal with our worry a bit better. So thanks for listening. I hope it's got you thinking a little bit, and yeah, let's help each other as much as possible below. And if you've got any video ideas, please help me out, because I'm struggling at the moment, if I'm honest with you. Hope you're all okay, and I'll see you soon.